In 1981, Sagawa enrolled at the prestigious Sorbonne University in Paris to study literature. It was there he met Renée Harteveld, a 25-year-old Dutch classmate described as intelligent, kind, and well-liked. He invited her to his apartment under the innocent pretext of translating poetry, but his intentions were anything but innocent. Once inside his small apartment on Rue Erlanger, the elegant streets fell away, replaced by terrifying intent. As Renée sat reading, Sagawa pulled out a rifle and shot her in the neck. What followed was one of the most disturbing acts of violence in modern criminal history. Sagawa mutilated her body over the next 3 days, driven by impulses not many minds can comprehend. He later described his action as an attempt to absorb her energy. Days later, police found 2 large suitcases in Bois de Boulogne, a park on Paris's edge. Suitcases filled with what he had tried to discard. Blood seeped from the cracks. A pedestrian alerted authorities. Sagawa was arrested immediately. When questioned, he confessed coldly, admitting what he had done and explaining that he had killed her to eat her flesh. But the horror didn't end with the crime. It was what happened next that would confound the world. Psychiatrists declared Sagawa legally insane and unfit to stand trial. Instead of prison, he was committed to a French mental hospital. Then, in a bizarre twist unseen in most criminal cases, he was deported back to Japan. Because French prosecutors had dropped charges and sealed the case files, Japanese authorities could not prosecute him. The legal system failed to hold him accountable, and after a mere 18 months in a Japanese hospital, he walked free. Most killers of this magnitude vanish behind bars. Not Sagawa. He became a controversial figure in Japan, appearing in interviews, writing books about crime, even reviewing restaurants. His story blurred the line between notoriety and celebrity in the most unsettling way imaginable. Many who encountered him later said his calm, polite demeanor made him even more disturbing, a reminder that true horror doesn't always wear the face we expect. Issei Sagawa died in 2022, but the questions his case raises still linger. What happens when the justice system fails the innocent, when legal loopholes protect the guilty, and when evil doesn't stay hidden but walks out into the world unpunished? This was a crime that should never have been forgotten, and a story that refuses to leave the shadows. New York City, the 1920s, an era of jazz, prohibition, and prosperity. But behind the bright lights of Broadway and the growing skyline of Manhattan, something far more sinister was hiding in plain sight. An old man with wire-rimmed glasses, soft-spoken, polite. A man no one feared. His name was Albert Fish, and he would become one of the most disturbing killers in American history. Born in 1870 in Washington, D.C., Albert Fish grew up surrounded by instability. Mental illness ran through his family. Several relatives were institutionalized. At just 5 years old, he was placed in an orphanage where he later claimed he was physically abused. Many criminologists believe this is where something inside him fractured. Pain, humiliation, and trauma began to twist into dark fantasies that would follow him for decades. As an adult, Fish appeared harmless. He worked odd jobs, painted houses, babysat children, attended church. Neighbors described him as quiet, religious, even gentle. He was a grandfatherly figure. But beneath that fragile exterior lived violent compulsions he struggled and eventually stopped trying to control. Throughout the 19-teens and 1920s, children began disappearing in New York and surrounding states. At first, no one connected the cases, but a pattern was forming, and Albert Fish was always nearby. In 1928, Fish answered a newspaper advertisement placed by a struggling family in Manhattan. The Buds were looking for work for their teenage son. Instead, they opened their door to a predator. Fish gained the family's trust. He spoke politely, brought gifts, smiled warmly. Weeks later, he returned, this time with a proposal. He invited Grace Budd to a birthday party. Her parents agreed. It would be the last time they saw their daughter alive. 6 years passed with no answers. Then, in 1934, Grace's mother received a letter. It was unsigned at first glance, but what it contained would shock even hardened detectives. The letter described in horrifying detail what had happened to Grace. It was graphic, it was cruel, and it was signed, Albert. The envelope led investigators to a boarding house in Manhattan. Inside, they found the frail, aging man who had hidden in plain sight. Albert Fish did not resist arrest. In fact, he confessed. During interrogation, Fish calmly admitted to multiple murders. He claimed he heard voices, that God commanded him, that suffering purified the soul. Psychiatrists examined him extensively. Was he insane or fully aware of his evil? The court ultimately ruled that despite his disturbing mental state, he knew right from wrong. In 1936, Albert Fish was sentenced to death. On January 16, 1936, at Sing Sing prison in New York, Albert Fish was executed in the electric chair. Witnesses said he walked calmly to his death. Some even claimed he showed no fear. The man known as the Gray Man was gone, but the terror he left behind would echo through American criminal history for decades. Albert Fish wasn't a shadowy stranger lurking in dark alleys. He was the neighbor, the babysitter, the old man on the train. His case forced America to confront a terrifying truth. Sometimes, evil doesn't look like a monster. Sometimes, it looks ordinary.